Okay. So, I'm glad that you don't care if you ever see the adoption papers or not. I know that you believe me. I They're important to me only because now I would like to have them. I never thought about it in life ever having those papers because I never thought I ever needed them. And I never thought that I would not ever see mom again either. I always hung on to that hope that I would see her. But obviously that never happened. Um I so this video I wanted to because I know I didn't tell you everything. I wanted to give you the adoption story. On how it happened and how it came to be without me just asking mom, which I did ask mom. But just putting lotion on my arm. I get like calluses right on my elbow because I'm always kneeling down like this in the car or something like that, and it gets callousy. Um, so obviously it was after mom told me how she felt towards me, that she loved me as her biological daughter, and I told her I loved her as my mother, as I really did. I had shared with you. Got something in my braces, sorry. I love mom from the very beginning, from the moment I laid eyes on her when I was 19 years old, as I did my father-in-law, your Uncle Ollie, Uncle Tom, all the other uncles and aunts. I love them so much. And it was instant. It was, and I don't remember if I've explained this to you or not. I'd have to listen back to videos, but when mom held me in her arms or would give me a hug and a kiss, um, you could feel love. You could feel that caring. You could feel that nurturing. You could just feel all those emotions, and I felt secure and not afraid with her, and just like I did my father-in-law and the other uncles. I could feel that from them. Even when I was standing near them, I knew that they loved you. Um, well, they loved me. That's what I mean. They loved you. Um, that's just how it was, and apparently it was different with mom. And when she took me to Grandma Waltman's when I was 19 at the family reunion because I had started my period, and put me into the bed that she would sleep in when she went there to visit. She had told me, she said, there's something different about you. There's something special about you. And they all could see it. And to this day, I don't know what that is. Um, mom had said, she goes, I'll figure it out. She goes, but there's something different and special about you. And I instantly loved her. So when they would come to the Motel 6, and after she told me how she felt towards me, and I felt towards her, the 2 weeks had passed because she went back to Missouri to take care of business and bills and stuff like that. But she had said that I'll be back because I want to know everything there is to know about you. She wanted to know it all because if that's how the relationship was going to be, she wanted to know everything there was about me, and she did. She knew everything. She knew me better than I knew me, and so after all those stories, that I told her everything about my life up into present time at 21 years old. I know it wasn't right away. It was sometime had passed, maybe a couple of weeks. It could have been, honestly, a couple of days. And I had come to her in the apartment there. I was off duty, technically, but with Motel 6, you were never off duty. And I told her, I said I wanted to talk to her. And I went to her and I kneeled down in front of her. She always sat in this one chair that we had there in the apartment that was designated as her chair. And I took her by the hands, like she would always me. And I said, Aunt Marie, I said, I said that I love you as my mother. And we had already had that talk and stuff like that. And I said, I have a question I want to ask you. And because she said I could always ask her anything I wanted, tell her anything I wanted. I just might not like the response I would get. And I looked at her and I said, would you adopt me? Would you legally adopt me? And she looked at me in awe, shock, surprise. And she kind of like went back like that a little bit. And she said, what are you insinuating? What are you requesting of me? And she said, I told you. She goes, how I felt towards you. And she said, I mean it. And I had told her, I know that you mean it. And I said, would you consider it? Would you consider legally adopting me? I'm 21 years old. I know what I want, and this is what I want. Rose was legally adopted at 21 years old by Agnana's second husband when she was married to your Uncle Ollie. So I knew what I wanted. I knew this is what I wanted. And I just asked her, don't say yes or no to me. Think about it. Would you please think about it and consider it? And if your answer is no, then it's no, and I'll just accept that. And then we'll just have the relationship that we have, that we're going to have as mother and daughter. And Mom and Uncle Bud were going to go. I think they were leaving the next day or the day after that, whichever it was. And they would be gone another couple of weeks because they would never stay gone long. And so when Mom and Uncle Bud came back, I stuck it out of my mind. And I remembered that I asked her, but I just didn't, I didn't approach her about it and say, well, did you think about it? I didn't press her. And so it wasn't the first day that they came back, because they docked their RV up at the Thousand Trails, or they stuck it in the shop, because I know that new RV in 1986, they had some mechanical issues with it at first. And I think the first one that they got, unless I'm not clear, they turned it back in and got something exactly like it because Mom liked it, that particular RV. But it had problems with it, and that's when she went to work with it for us in that August. Because I fired everybody. But except one person. But in the office. And I controlled the office. And they were there for like 3 weeks. Tad went stir crazy. And anyway, and so when they came back, and I didn't ask her. Like I said, that night we went out to supper, to that Mexican restaurant that they liked across the freeway there in San Ysidro. And I didn't say a thing to Mom. I waited for her. And so the next afternoon, Mom was in the apartment, and she ended up sitting in the other chair, because there was 2 different chairs, the same chair, but 2 different ones, over by the door where we came in at. She sat there, and I came in and sat down because she asked me to. Actually, I think she went and found Tony, and I was doing inspections, and Tony came and got me and said, Aunt Marie wants you. She wants to talk to you. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll be there in a minute. And came in and sat down, and Mom looked at me all serious. And she took my hands, and, I've told you everything is always by the hand. When I walked with her, when I stood with her, when she scolded me in the RV, when I was punished, always by the hand. And when she talked to me, sitting next to her. And so she took me by my hands, and I kneeled in front of her. And she says, do you remember what you requested of me when we were here last? And I'm just looked at her because like I said, I really actually forgot that I did ask her. And she said, you had asked me a question the last time we were here. Do you remember what that was? And I said, oh, yes. I said, that's okay, Aunt Maria. I said, if it's no, it's no. I said, it's okay. I shouldn't have asked you that. And she looked at me and she said, I thought about it. She said, I really did. And she said, when I was back in Missouri, she said, I made a few phone calls and found out on what it would entail. And she said that it actually entails more than what I thought. Because I just figured you go and you fill out papers and you say, I want her to be my mother, and that's it. I didn't know. I just figured it was an easy peasy thing. But Mom had told me, she didn't tell me all the details. She just said it was more than what she entailed, that I thought it entailed, is how she's put it. And she got a hold of an attorney while she was in Missouri. I know that they had an attorney for legal whatever stuff. So maybe it was that attorney. I don't know. She didn't go into great detail. And she had told me that, she explained it to me again. She said, I have told you how I felt towards you. You will be my third and my last. And I will raise you up. I will take you under my wing. I will teach you things. I will retrain you. I will relearn you. The whole entire thing. And she said, I will love you. She goes, we'll have the relationship as mother and daughter, but I would call her Aunt Marie. And I said, why won't you? I asked her. And she said, it's not that she didn't want to, because she never said yes or no. She told me that she was the first thing she was concerned with, because in the state of Missouri, a father had to be listed, she told me. And she also said that it would have to be considered, it would be public record. But I told her, I said, this is adult adoption. I'm 21. It's not like I'm a child, And I thought that in all states, all adoptions were private. That's what my way of thinking was. And I don't know the laws in Missouri, obviously. And she said the first concern was this. She was afraid on how your Uncle Ollie would feel, because if a father needed to be listed, it would have to be Uncle Bud, she told me. And she didn't know how my father-in-law would feel about it. And I always called him Dad. He was Dad. That was it, period. Dad. I never called him anything else. He was my father. And I said, we just go to Dad, I said, and explain it to him and tell him. And tell him this is how it's going to be. It wouldn't change. He won't still stop being Dad. And Mom said no, but if Uncle Bud was put on as listed as father, she said he wouldn't like that, and it would hurt him, and she didn't want him to get hurt. Her second concern was you guys, you and Rita. she said that she didn't want to cause any hurt feelings. And she didn't, there was another word she used besides hurt feelings, and I can't think of it. I don't remember right at this second. But she didn't want to cause any hurt feelings. And she said that you guys wouldn't understand. And I said, can't you sit down with Rita and Karen and explain it to them and tell them you love me like your biological daughter, and I asked you to adopt me and you consider it, and you decided to do it. I said, can't you tell them that? She said they won't understand. And she didn't want it to cause any hurt feelings. And I always knew that you guys were a great deal older than I. And I never did the math on it, but I knew that you were older than I was. And she just, in her head, it was just like nobody would understand, and she didn't want anybody to find out. And I knew you had kids, little kids at that time period. And I was like, in my head, I didn't understand why you wouldn't understand. I didn't understand why it would cause any hurt feelings. And she just like, well, think about it. She goes, what if, your mother, my birth mother, Lynn, and she already knew how I felt. She said, if she was to do that, I said, me, Mike, and Steve wouldn't have cared. I said, heck no. Me, Mike, and Steve are way different than most people are, I suppose. And I'm like, so what? I said, I don't believe blood's thicker than water. I never have, and I'm not ever going to. And I knew Mom didn't feel that way, and I knew anybody else didn't. No one else felt that way. So, yeah, in my mind, I didn't understand it. I actually still don't understand it. But Mom was afraid. Mom was afraid that I think that maybe she would be hated. Maybe you guys wouldn't love her. I don't know. And I've told you that. I don't know what it was. But like I said, she never said yes, and she never said no. And she said that we'll just keep everything the way it is. And I said, if Rita and Karen were accepting, I said, would you? Would you have a problem with it? I said, if it had to do with other circumstances, would you have a problem with it? And she says, like what? And I said, okay. I said, what if you didn't have kids? I said, and you felt this way towards me, would you adopt me? And she said, yes. And she said, and I was crying. And she said, we'll just keep things the way they are. I thought, okay. I didn't like that. So that night, when Mom put me to bed, I was crying. And because she always put me to bed. And I told her, please consider adopting me. And just keep it a secret. So, I had gotten up at night and I was crying on our couch in the apartment, trying to figure out what to do. And then I figured it out. I don't think I slept the rest of the night. I think I went into the office and did paperwork and got the end of the week ready. Mom comes in, she was always in the apartment during the daytime, fiddling around, sewing or reading or doing something. And after my closeout was done, I came to her and I said, I need to talk to you. And she said, what did I tell you? And I said, Aunt Marie, I understand that you don't want anybody in Missouri to find out that who I am, that you love me as your daughter. And you won't, and you can't adopt me in Missouri. She said, I said, I understand it. I said, but I don't agree with you. And she said, it's not important that you agree with me. It's important that you understand. So I said, would you consider adopting me in a different state? And she said, what are you requesting of me? And I said, I know you go down to Florida a lot. You had a residency down there. What about Florida? And she looked at me. She said, well, Florida's a bit far away. I said, what about California? This is my home state. Would you consider doing it here? Using Dad's address for someone. You know, I might have said Grandma too, but and she just looked at me and I just begged her and I said, please consider it. Please consider it, doing it here. Somewhere where Rita and Karen won't know. Nobody would have to know. She didn't want to talk about it no more. I just cried. She took me in her arms and I cried. I just kept telling her, I want you to be my mother. I want you to be my mother. And she said, I will always be her to you. Another time passed where they left. They had left that time. And they had come back. It was never mentioned. But she knew. She knew how I felt. Time after that, they came back. And I put it out of my head. I just figured, okay, well, I tried. Mom had me sit down on the couch, and she said, I brought you something. And I'm like, thank you. I said, you never have to bring me anything. And, but thank you. And she said, oh no. She said, this is something that you're going to want. And she handed me the vanilla envelope, the legal size, you know, I don't know, so big, that has like whatever form, size. They have size like that. She handed it to me. I didn't think anything by it. And she said, oh, I said, what is this? And she says, open it. I sit there and I open it and I thought maybe she wrote me a letter or something, because she would never write me a letter. I didn't know, or a picture. Maybe it was a picture. I thought, because I always wanted a picture and never got a picture. And I opened it up and started pulling those white papers out. And I knew they were court papers. I just knew they were court papers. It said something on the top. Along the top, I don't remember what it said, but it said something about adoption. And when I pulled it out like that, and I just looked at it for a second, and I looked up at her, and she says, "Do you know what those are?" And I said, You decided to adopt me." And Mom said, she goes, "That's what you wanted. That's what you asked of me." And she said, "Apparently, the reason you asked me to adopt you is because you didn't believe me that when I told you that I love you as my daughter. And you wanted me to prove it to you." I told Mom I believed her. She didn't have to prove it. I wanted her to be my legal mother. I looked through those papers. I didn't understand them. And she read to me whatever they had said. There was a few papers. She knew that because of being Motel 6 managers, we couldn't just leave. I couldn't just take off and leave. So she showed me where to sign. They were all marked. They're like little highlighter marks next to where to sign and date. Mom had said that she went through an attorney. I don't remember the name. I don't remember the name of who it was, or the agency, or nothing. And so she had me sign wherever. The attorney that she went through, I signed papers for him to stand in my place, to speak on my behalf. And she said that if the court wouldn't allow the attorney, it was I guess family law attorney, I don't know. I just figured it was an adoption attorney. That if the court wouldn't allow the attorney to speak on my behalf, and I signed papers for that. They were all in this packet, in that envelope. That she would have to reschedule a date, and I would have to go. And she would come and get me, and she goes, "And I will bring you up there." Tony had to sign a paper, and he didn't know what he was signing. She had him come. He come into the apartment, and went over to our kitchen table there in the little kitchen, and she told him, she said, "I have something I would like you to sign and date." And I don't remember Tony what he said. Tony was not told what about it, and he decided, he said something like, "What is it?" or something like that. And I said, "Tony," I said, "don't ask questions." I said, "It's about me." I said, "It's all good. Don't worry about it. It just has to do with me. But you need to sign that. Don't ask any questions." And Aunt Marie, Mom turned around and looked at me and gave me that look, like, "Shh." And Tony signed it because he had to sign a consent. Mom told me that Uncle Bud had to sign a paper too. And Mom told me that when she left to go to take the papers, she was stopping by, she goes, I'm stopping by Dad's. I have to stop in Victorville. And she goes, I have a paper for Dad to sign. And I said, for what? And she looked at me and she said, I told you that a father might have to be listed. Because she solely adopted me, as you know. No one else. And she was going to have him be listed as the father. And she looked at me and she said, by the time I get done with this, she goes, I will have you covered, family, legal family, all around, no matter what. If, heaven forbid, and I don't think that'll ever happen. She goes, but you never know about things. She said, if you and Tony were to ever divorce, or even if he was to die by being married, you will still legally be family, no matter what. It's not going to change. Because Mom was going to be my mother, and your Uncle Ollie was going to be my father. And she said that it won't be anything weird or strange or something like that. She didn't use the word freakish. That would have been my word. Because there's no bloodline between me and Tony. And she had said that this does not change your relationship with your brother Mike. And Mom, like I think I had told you, my brother Mike knew everybody. Mom, he knew Mom, he knew Uncle Bud, he knew all the Waltmans, he knew all the friends, both sides of the family, Rose's side of the family, everybody. Knew them all. And everybody liked him. And she said, this does not change your relationship with him. It does not change your relationship with your natural family. She said, in fact, she goes, I prefer you to maintain relationships with your natural family. And I just looked at her. And she said, yes, that means your birth mother. And I said, do I have to? And she says, no, you don't have to. But I prefer that you do. And I said, so can I just not have anything to do with anybody? And she gave me that mom look. And she says, what did I say? And I said that you want me to maintain relationships with everybody. I didn't want to. Not with the birth family. With the birth parents. I didn't. I honestly didn't. And she said, think about how that might make them feel. You know, they're all still alive. The only person that passed away was my grandfather. She said, it would hurt them. She says, and I don't want you hurting anybody. In the same token, she didn't want anybody in Missouri to be hurt. She said, nobody can know about this. And I gave her my word, my promise, and my vow that as long as she was alive, I would never say anything to anybody. And I never did. Not even my dog. Not even a good friend. No one knew. No one ever knew. I never breathed a word to it. I never told a soul. Because I couldn't. So, I'll have to do a part 2 because I'm going to get off work in a minute. And this is going to roll over and I don't want it to roll over. So I'll do a part 2 later.